Hey everyone! In this video I want to help you learn so fast it's going to make your head spin around in a circle. I really am all about picking up skills, I think, but the problem is it can be really time consuming, it can be very frustrating. I know you might have seen some of my other videos on this, but I just want to break it down into one particular aspect of skill building, drilling. And in this video we're going to talk about how to drill more effectively and get better results faster that way. But first, I just want to make sure that we're clear. Skills versus talent, okay? Most of what we want to do and be good at life is going to be some kind of skill. Talent, the reason I emphasize skill over talent is because talent has to be given to you by God or whatever. It's not really, it's not in your control, right? Skills can be developed and anybody can build a skill. But it can take us a lot of time to do that. It can be a very long process, and it can also be kind of very frustrating because you make a lot of mistakes in the beginning of learning a new skill. In this video, I'm going to use two examples, a physical skill and also a social skill, because it's easier to see with physical skills, but I want to emphasize that it can happen with any skill drilling, and so I want to show you kind of from two examples of my life how you can apply it in different ways. First one's ping pong. When I was a kid, high school actually, my friend had a ping pong table. Elliot and I would go. He would kick my ass constantly because he had a ping pong table and I didn't have a ping pong table. We'd go there and we'd play. We would just play over and over and over again. Now, I got better at ping pong from playing Elliot. He was he was really good, and even just to compete, but I had to keep showing up. It was so frustrating, and I mean, we were doing it for years, and I never really got to where I could consistently beat him. I got close. But the reason that I'm telling you it that way is because that is practicing. People want to do the thing pretty quickly. They want to play the game, right? It's fun to play ping pong as long as you can handle getting your butt kicked pretty substantially for a long, long time. It's really fun to play the game. But it's not the best or most effective way to structure your learning of the game, right? Because in practicing, like really what you're doing when you're learning a new skill is you're building a neural network so that your brain knows in X situation, fire X neural or Y neural cluster, I don't know how to name variables. Anyway, so you want to drill to get it to where you can actually activate those pathways. And when you're practicing by playing the game, the whole game, there's really a lot to keep track of, and it makes it harder for the brain to build those accurate neural networks. It just takes a lot longer to do it. So you'll get better over time, but it's like slower, and again, it's more frustrating because you're actually going to have to lose a lot. Now, fast forward to college, and I'm on the ping pong team. I really enjoyed it. And one of the things that we would do is we would drill, and drilling is so key. Now, it can be really boring, so there's a way to think about it to help with that. But what we would do is literally we would just be drilling forehands. So we're going across the table, and we're just trying to hit the forehands back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and getting faster and faster. Now, in the beginning, it kind of sucks. Not that good at it. And when you're playing somebody who's substantially better than you, that can be a little bit frustrating. But if you can think about it just like, it's almost like eating your vegetables or taking your vitamins or something like that. It's something that you have to do. And it's also another way that I really love to think about it is it's almost like a meditation. You're really just focusing on something. But to get there, what you want to do is, like what we were doing there, is we were drilling forehands and backhands, for instance. What we're doing is we're taking the skill of ping pong and we're breaking it into constituent parts. So what are the smallest components of success, and how do we stack those together to really make a more capable skill set in general? The same is true with any skill that we're doing. And so what we'd be doing is deconstructing the skill that is playing ping pong into sub-skills, and then we'd be drilling each one of those sub-skills so that my brain can make a neural network that can fire off whenever I am presented with a ball to this quadrant. I can fire back with a forehand and get it across the net because I've drilled it a ton of times, right? So then once you deconstruct the skill, you break it into kind of the sub-skills, then you drill by the clock. So you just spend some time. In this case, we would usually spend the first 20 minutes of every kind of meeting of the team, and we would drill. We would spend that time just drilling, doing our drills, whatever drills we wanted to work on that day. Now, that practicing by the clock is key because it can help you to overcome some of the initial maybe boredom of the practice or what it is. But there's another way that I really like to overcome some of that boredom too, is because you can actually feel, if you're paying attention, you can feel the skill developing in you. You can start to like notice how quickly, if you're just focused on one little sub-skill, how quickly you get better at that. And you can actually see the progress happening. So it's pretty cool. But you want to do repetitions. That's the key. You're either counting repetitions or you're counting it by the clock, like you're doing it by the time, so that you're getting that practice done. So that's ping pong. Like learning by doing the whole thing versus learning by practicing the skills, you get much better, much faster that way. So now let's take it into another arena, social skills. So this is a long story, I'll tell you some other time, but I had a head injury. I had to relearn my social skills, and one of the progress, it was driven by loneliness. Oh, such loneliness. But one of the things that I had to do in getting back, getting back those skills, which is really cool because I got to actually see all of this in process and actually learn the things. But what I had to do was I actually had to break down what a social interaction is into constituent parts and then actually drill them. And I didn't know what I was doing at the time, because this is a lot of hindsight and studying, learning, and all that stuff, which has been a big passion for me. But at the time, it was just going out and practicing. And what's really cool is practicing social skills is a code for trying to get dates, but but what would happen is I'd go out to places and I would have to meet people, and you start conversations with strangers, and at first it's just how do you, like, the very first skill that you have to get is just how do you get into a conversation. So how do you consistently get into a conversation? And you got to do a lot of repetitions. You got to get kind of rejected or even just run away in fear lots of times. But the idea is that you're drilling. I was drilling by going up, talking to people, and trying to get a conversation started. Going up, talking to new people, and trying to get a conversation started. And, it wasn't too long of that happening before I started to really reliably be able to get a conversation started. So that's like skill one, right? And then I need to escalate. I need to actually make friends. So there are ways to kind of build rapport with people faster, and I needed to learn what those were so that I could actually get the practice of redeveloping my social skills. Because, in brief, I lost kind of my ability to follow trains of thought and conversations, and I also would stutter, and I had to get over that. And so there were these things that I had that were like challenges that I had to overcome. And I needed to be able to drill and practice those things so that I could actually use the neuroplasticity of my brain to reform those skills, right? But the idea is, at each phase of the interaction, whether it be first starting a conversation, getting people to like me and like them back, and then there's actually meeting up later and having some future time where we're together, and then it's cultivating and managing relationships and a social network and all of those things. And so each step along the way has its own kind of aspects and neural network that needs to get built. And by doing it over and over and over again, I was able to drill in actual social skills. So the idea is, once again, to take whatever the skill is that you want, the desired proficiency, right? And to break it into sub-skills that you can then go and drill either by repetition or by the clock. I would just go out every Friday and Saturday night and drill by the clock. I would be out all night. But there's also counting repetitions, so you can just count. But either way, you're doing a deliberate practice and not just, doing the whole thing. You're really trying to get and hone your skills. And the final step is you want to reflect. So the more that you can see what good looks like from somebody else so that you can imitate or emulate it, that's fantastic. But regardless of how you get to it, you want to take some time after you're doing your drills to reflect back on what was I doing. So in the table tennis or the ping pong example, it's really immediate feedback. You either miss the shot or you don't. And so you can reflect back on, I needed to tilt my paddle a little bit more, or I needed to come up a little bit more so that I could get the spin that I needed to return the spin. So you kind of get the feedback and you can do the reflection immediately. But you can also take a kind of a retrospective after a practice session and think, okay, well, what were the things that we did? What did I do best at and what did I do worst at, so I can guide my future drills to make sure that I'm covering my gaps. You can do the same thing with social skills. Again, you're getting the feedback right away because people either reject you painfully outright or you run away or whatever that looks like. And then you can actually take a retro at the end as well and say, okay, so what kinds of things did I do tonight that really helped me succeed? What kinds of maybe stories landed with people? What jokes did people like? What was the time when I was most engaged, and how could I replicate that? And so you're kind of like thinking back on what happened, such that you can guide your future drills. So, I hope all of that was helpful for you to think about how you can make the practice itself more effective and more quick by breaking the skill itself into sub-skills, and then drilling. Once you do that, drilling by the clock on those sub-skills, and then finally taking a retrospective and looking back, reflecting on what you did well, what you didn't, and where there are still gaps. I hope this helps. If you haven't before, please post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. What's the one takeaway that you got from this video? Also, if you have any questions, those really help to deepen the conversation and grow the videos in the future, and also just really have a conversation with people. So please post any questions that you have. If you like this video, feel free to like it, and also subscribe because there's more coming. And also I have an offer for you. If you have not yet seen the 7 Radical Shifts to Unleash Your Personal Power, it is a book that I've written. I'd love to give you a free copy of it. Grab that. It's a way to help you to feel more free, more successful, and more powerful in your life, and use your mind as an ally. So I hope this all helps. Thanks for watching, and have an excellent life.